how's it going, man?
Oh, doing good. We made it.
Oh, yes, we did. Oh boy, where are you from, Brian? Where do you live?
We are based in Western Canada, in Calgary, actually, in the Rocky Mountain area, Canada.
Oh, now, first inclination is to make fun of how Canadians speak, but then you'd make fun of how people from Wisconsin speak, and it'd be just polite people being rude to each other. And so we're not going to do that or make fun of each
Yeah, no doubt.
other.
No doubt. We get it a lot. We're used to it as Canadians for sure.
Yeah. Oh well, okay. So here it's bright and sunny out. And I ran up out of my cave quick before the live stream started. I was like, oh, I've made a gross miscalculation for how I spend the day. But how's the weather where you're at?
Well, unfortunately, it's very cliche Canadian weather right now. It is like minus 20 degrees Celsius, and we've probably got a foot of snow on the ground right now from a snowstorm last week. So,
Oh
yeah,
my.
I'd love to tell you it's sunny and nice, and but no, it's very cliche Canadian right now.
So you're very happy where you're at,
Oh
right?
yeah, well, you know what? We live in a part of the world where skiing and snowboarding is pretty big. We have the Rocky
Uh,
Mountains right on our doorstep. For most people that live here, we actually welcome the snow and cold because it means we get to go skiing in the mountains. So,
all right.
yeah, you kind of have to enjoy it. You got to find a way to like it.
Awesome. Well, for those of you who are wondering, Christina has is dealing with a fire. Some big client emergency, so she's not going to be able to join us today. But today we're going to get into one of my favorite topics in just a little bit. It's about embedded analytics, and so we're very excited to have Brian here talking about that. Before we do that, though, I've been told I should be doing more cleaning stuff and like prep for what's coming next. But so as a heads up, on Friday, Mark Walters is going to be joining the live stream at 7:30 a.m. Fabric Fridays. We're going to be talking about some cool things we could do inside of the treat ads functionality. Frankly, he showed me a demo of this. I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to see this out there. Uh, After that, though, next week there's not going to be any live streams. They're going to be at the MVP Summit, learning all great new things. You might possibly see some live streams from the summit come up, but we're going to play that one by ear. Not committing to that right now. So don't be afraid if you don't see this next week. This is a planned thing. Week after that, Miguel Myers is going to be back, and he's got a whole presentation about all the things that he's going to be doing in Power BI in 2024. This is straight up like after last week's live stream where he was a surprise guest. He came and showed it to me, blew me away. So can't wait to show it to you. Following week, there'll be none of the official live streams. Because we're going to be at the Fabric Community Conference, but I will be live streaming from the Fabric Community Conference. You'll see me on the floor. I'll be presenting. Brian, I understand we're presenting together. Is that right?
Yes, we'll actually be joining you up on stage for the session around embedded analytics for definitely a few minutes. We'll be up on stage chatting.
Oh, that is fantastic. And I'm going to be doing some like live streams from like the showroom floor, interviewing with people, like getting their feedback, getting their hot takes on the big announcements that are coming out of Fabric Conference. So they are going to be kind of random, as these events unfurl, so like live breaking news type things. So do check that out. And Brian, I'm going to let you explain the next slide or the next bit of item that we have here.
Yeah, for sure. So we wanted to make to make something exciting for the Kratos BI audience. So we already offer a 30-day no obligation free trial to install and try out our software, the reporting hub. But we wanted to make it a little extra special for today for the live stream for the Kratos BI audience. So we're going to give a bonus 30-day free trial. So a total of 60 days free trial, and that's a no obligation free trial. What we mean by that is there's no credit card. We don't ask for your credit card up front. You can do it. You can install our software, do a full proof of concept. Run it in your Azure environment, see how it works, kick the tires on it. So we're giving out that 30 days. So just mention, if you do a trial, mention Kratos BI, and we'll tack on an additional 30 days for you.
Oh, that's fantastic. But as far as people know, they don't even know what the heck you were talking about when it comes to a 30-day trial. So we're going to get into that in just a second. We'll revisit that. So when people see what you're talking about, maybe that'll make more sense in a second. But before we do, Brian, we want to do like, what is your grow up story? How did you go from 5-year-old Brian who wanted to be a firefighter or a baker to Brian, the reporting hub, like mastermind?
Love it, love it. So I actually wanted to be a cook when I was, I think, 5 years old. I was like a little junior cook, watching cooking shows and doing all that stuff. So I think my mom thought I was going to be a chef when I was that age, but did not follow that path.
All
Um,
right.
I'm actually kind of grew up in the east part of Canada, in the Toronto area, and then moved out to the west about 20 years ago. But anyhow, you know, went to school, you know, got a business degree kind of thing, and then, you know, I'll almost call it dumb luck, to be honest with you, because I was more, you know, in the world of finance and business management and that kind of thing. But had a math background and all that. And then, you know, kind of dumb luck. My first job out of school was an analytics job. And 20 years ago, analytics was not what it is today. That's for sure. Um,
Ain't that the truth, huh?
yeah, I mean, so I like to call myself an OG kind of BI analytics guy, data guy, going back to those old days. So I kind of dumb luck fell into that job, and that just progressed, and then, you know, got additional, you know, got really fortunate and had a chance to work at an organization that was doing kind of, you know, really cutting edge analytics.
Ah,
Am I back?
yeah. Sorry about that, Brian.
No, no worries. Could you hear me still, or did
Yeah,
you?
we can
Okay,
hear
all good.
you. I forgot. You can't control H cuts someone's feed.
Yeah,
So if you
no,
try to say hello in chat, uh
it's all good. It's all
apologies.
good.
Yeah.
Hey, no worries, no worries. We're live, right? That's the
Yeah,
deal.
that's
Um,
right.
so no, so all good. Yeah. So, you know, ended up doing BI and analytics, and, you know, got really fortunate working for some really cool companies back in the day doing, you know, this is all before kind of Power BI even existed, really, right? And doing kind of some of the old school, uh, you know, ways of doing analytics and BI and, you know, big data when it's kind of is in its infancy. And then in 2016, I started a company called Shift Analytics, and we focused, you know, recognizing the value of Power BI and recognizing
Mm,
the value and having the background in data and analytics and how to turn data into, you know, insight and information, and being able to convey that. You know, I started Shift Analytics back in 2016, but we were back in those days. We were predominantly, you know, a professional services organization consulting in the Power BI Azure data space. Again, that was still. It's easy to forget how, you know, like as little as 5 years ago, Power BI is not what it is today.
right.
You know, things have changed a lot since 2016 when we started. So we were really still at the forefront of bringing data, bringing BI into organizations, and that was the goal of Shift Analytics. And then, you know, about 5 years ago, we started tinkering and building delivery platforms for Power BI, because we,
Mm,
being kind of in the space of data analytics, business intelligence, the one area that we always thought was never done quite well is delivery.
mhm,
So, and, you know, organizations spend a ton of money on data preparation, data governance, and, you know, all that stuff, the heavy lifting from a data perspective. They spend a lot of time and effort on the actual, you know, building the visualizations and the automation and everything to do that. But where it often fell short was on the delivery. And if
mhm,
you do all that work and you spend all that time and all that money building this amazing, you know, real time streaming, whatever, you know, BI data project, but you don't deliver it well then the whole thing's for naught. And that was kind of the aha moment for us with the reporting hub. And we started, you know, 5 6 years ago, building kind of custom solutions with different backends. We, you know, we built some custom SharePoint based ones, then we built some, you know, kind of web app ones. And, you know, I think we have a similar kind of backstory, Chris, of like, you know, figuring out how to do this, tinkering before things really even existed. So you know, that's what we were kind of doing, and then that led to developing what today is now the reporting hub. And so that's I guess my how I went from being a 5 year old cooking prodigy to a BI delivery guy.
well, that is absolutely fantastic. And so we're gonna like not delay any longer. We're gonna dive into it now. have a few things got to like get out of the door because we have a few rules. Rule number one: please prefix any question with a Q so that I can get it queued up and we can make sure that Brian answers it. Because frankly, while I want to learn from Brian here today, we are here to really inform you, answer your questions, that type of thing. Rule number two: please don't repeat questions. We got it. I'm pretty good at grabbing those. This isn't a crazy live stream where we've got thousands of people chiming in and we miss them. So if you put a Q in front of your question, I will get it queued up for later. Okay. Um, and then right before we start, I want to know, have you built a solution or have you used embedded analytics at any of the companies that you've worked at, or so if you've ever done this or even know what the heck we're talking about it, like let us know in the comments so we could just gauge, like, of the 70 some odd people that are watching live, like how many of you know even what the heck this topic is all about, right? So love to understand that before we get in. So before you jump in, Brian, I'm gonna like frame up how we met. Okay, so uh, and I'm gonna give a little bit of journey here. I think I've said this before, but we're gonna go into it again because you know it. Why the heck not? Um, when I worked for a large insurance company, and we wanted to distribute analytics broadly within the organization, but that whole, like, how do they consume it, how do they get directly into it, we want people to, like, when you're using data and doing data analytics, we want you to be right into the right thing and have a really controlled and governed experience. So it was top notch, right? And uh so when we were looking at Power BI, there was no embedded anything, so we spent months hacking the service to come up with and build a solution. And that's evolved over time, and up to the point where, like, we met, I think, 3 months ago now. Brian, is that about right? And then I'm like, I fell in love with stuff that you're talking about, and what you have to show for us. So I'm excited to see what we got going on your side.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So can you give everyone a rundown on, when we say embedded analytics and the reporting hub, what the heck are we even talking about here?
Yeah, no doubt. I think, I think it's one of those things in the Power BI ecosystem that is probably not the most understood of topics. What Power BI embedded is really just, a series of APIs and SDK from Microsoft that allows you to take your Power BI and securely embed it within an app, a web app. And that's what Power BI embedded is. It's really just APIs from Microsoft. And what it's not is a ready to go to market tool. It's not a piece of software. It's not a plug and play solution or a platform. So that, I think, is where it gets a little bit misunderstood. And organizations that start going down the road of embedded BI using Power BI embedded hit a roadblock of realizing, oh, this isn't going to be simple. I actually have to build this, or I have to hire developers to code a solution and use these APIs to build out a solution that I can now embed my Power BI content securely in an app. And then that was the kind of historically what embedded BI meant. It meant, a significant time to market, significant cost, significant technical expertise required to do it. It was by no means a simple thing to undertake. And often because of that, the benefits were often overlooked or just not really taken advantage of, because it was it's a cost benefit. It's it's no different than anything else. If the cost is too high for the benefit, then you're not going to do it. And that was predominantly, I think, one of the reasons why Power BI embedded really didn't take off to the level maybe it should have or could have, was because just the difficulty and complexity to deploy it. So what the reporting hub is the reporting hub is basically takes all of that complexity away and allows you to take advantage of the Power BI embedded framework and builds a plug and play web app around the Microsoft technology and allows you to basically just install the reporting hub and be using Power BI embedded within 5 minutes. And that's the big deal. That's what the reporting hub is. It's a plug and play web app built specifically for Power BI embedded, and it's deployed to your Azure environment, which means it becomes your web app. And it's a white label application. So that means that you can customize it, brand it to your customer base. So there's no mention of the reporting hub or anything. You can deliver your Power BI content, and you can control how you deliver it. It separates the delivery from kind of the development side of it, because you now have a specific the reporting hub becomes a delivery channel for your Power BI.
Gosh, that makes so much sense to me, especially like if you work at a large organization, you've got access to a whole bunch of like Power BI content. Like you can have access to tens of thousands of reports and objects, and like great as a developer to or analyst to go in and explore everything. But if I'm thinking about my sales staff or my operations team or my finance group, I don't necessarily want people having to wade through a million different things at various states of development. I want them going right in and consuming their analytics right where they're at, right? And I think that's what embedded analytics really does, and Reporting Hub allows for. So
Yeah, absolutely. The other big, and I'm sure all of us have heard it, right? You've got an executive, he wants a number, but he's got to wade through app.powerbi.com to find that number. And we hear that a lot. But the other big thing that Power BI Embedded allows us to do seamlessly is share externally. That's probably one of the biggest gaps in the Power BI world, is the ability to share externally. Now you can do it. There's some hacks. You can, share URLs and do all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying it can't be done. But it's a very clunky solution if you want to share externally. And Power BI Embedded allows you to kind of, polish that from a delivery standpoint for external users. And when I'm saying external, I mean external to your Microsoft tenant, so that I can log in with my email credential into your platform with my email and password. I don't need a special URL to be invited into your Power BI tenant, as an example.
So hang on. Extrapolating on that, does that mean I could start to truly like monetize my data and start to like publish out reports and create subscription models that sit on top of it?
Absolutely. So that's one of our biggest customer bases, and we coined that. I don't say we coined it, but we call that analytics as a service. And what we mean by that is you can now take your analytics offering and productize it, commercialize it, go to market with an actual app delivery platform. So and now have a way to deliver that to a customer base. And that customer base doesn't need to be within your organization. They're likely not going to be in your organization if they're your customers. So that's the true, one of the major benefits here is the ability to take your analytics, and we have so many customers, and they're really smart BI people and really smart data people, but they're not app developers. And they've got an analytics suite, reporting, their IP, their secret sauce is taking some sort of data and then modeling that data, doing whatever process to that data, and then creating insight and then delivering that. That's their business model, generating insight from data. Well, the Reporting Hub can act as the actual platform in which you can commercialize that now.
Oh, I think that makes so much sense. And speaking from my experience, like prior to the whole, like if you haven't seen the Embedded Playground, definitely check for viewers, right? Check out the Embedded Playground, because Brian, you're leveraging the APIs that Microsoft provides, right?
Yes, and actually that's a good point. I should actually specify, because again, this is can be a very confusing world. When we're talking Power BI Embedded right now, there's actually two scenarios of Power BI Embedded. We're talking about the app owns data scenario only. So we're talking about the other one is where your user owns data, and that's meant for internal. That's meant for like embedding in SharePoint, Teams, that kind of thing. We're talking about the app owns data model, or it's also known as embed for your customers. That's what, when we're talking Power BI Embedded, just be aware that that's what we're talking about.
Okay, fair enough. So I've explored the Embedded Playground. I love it. I've got a whole bunch of videos out there, so do check those out. But my skill set did not align with, as like a data engineering, data analyst, Power BI guy, it didn't align with the skill set necessary for the embedded side. So what you're saying is, and you correct me if I'm wrong, uh, you've basically leveraged that, built out a subscription model so that you could get that up and running for others to use. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's think of it, it's like a plug and play web app. So
Mm-hmm.
it's no code. You do
Mm-hmm.
not need to code a single stitch to do anything within the reporting hub. So it's truly UI interface where you can go and install it. We actually have an installer application that will actually do the entire installation automated. It's a self-serve installation process. So our installer will not only install the actual reporting hub software within your Azure instance, it will actually install all the associated Azure resources as well. So your embedded capacity, your Fabric capacity, your Azure App Service, your SQL database, kind of the underlying infrastructure you need to run an application in your Azure environment. Our installer will do all of those things. So you don't need to even know how to set up Azure. You can just simply run our installation wizard. It will do all of that, and then you're literally with under 10 minutes, you can now start deploying Power BI embedded. And to put that into context, to build a Power BI embedded solution, Chris, we're talking like a 6-month minimum endeavor here. Like,
Yeah. And that's to build a solution that leverages some of the APIs, not all of the APIs with it. I mean, an ongoing like usage pattern, right?
yeah.
Um, hey, Power BI Tips is in the chat. So great to see you. I presume that's Mike on the other end of that, but maybe it's Seth or it's, oh my gosh. I'm losing my head here. Mike's asking, how does the identity management happen within the application? What if users want to log in using Google, LinkedIn, or other Microsoft tenants? Where is that metadata stored?
Yeah, good question. So the reporting hub doesn't do the identity management. The reporting hub is built to be configurable with kind of all the major identity management kind of frameworks. So you can, out of the box, it's going to work with Microsoft Entra ID, Active Directory. So that's kind of the basic identity management that comes out of the box. Now it's also configurable to work with Okta, OpenID, and Auth0 as well. So if you basically that's kind of on your organization to deploy what you want to deploy or use your existing protocols and your existing identity management, and then basically plug that into the reporting hub, and then the reporting hub will be single sign-on to whichever framework you would like to use. So the idea is it's agnostic from a identity management perspective. So if you want to do things like have people log in with their Google or Facebook, you can do that, but you need to make sure you set up that layer within an OpenID code flow or something like that.
Awesome.
And the reporting up out of the box is ready to work with those.
Okay, that's great. And yeah, so Power BI Tips is chime in. Yep, he sees a 3 to 4 month dev cycle for companies to build out fully embedded.
Yeah, and that's when you know what you're doing, right?
Yeah. 1 to 2 devs doing a full build. So
Yeah.
like that really shifts away from like, okay, I'm going to invest this time and energy to, okay, let me subscribe to the service. And I mean, how long, like, do you, if let's say I subscribe,
Yeah.
how long am I committed to on that subscription? Is it like a 10-year subscription
There's no term
or
commitments on any of
okay?
any of our subscriptions. So you can you pay monthly or annually. But if you decide to pay monthly, there's no term commitments at all. So you can fire up a subscription after 30 days or a month. You're like, hey, this isn't going to work, or for whatever reason, maybe you have this business idea that doesn't take off. Well, you just simply cancel your subscription, and then you're only out 30 days or 60 days or whatever your term is. So our whole goal with the reporting hub is to get it into people's hands
Yeah.
and eliminate all of the humps, all of the roadblocks, all the cost barriers that have existed with this technology. And for instance, I was on a demo with a guy last week, and he's like, we just got a quote to build a solution, and our like basic quote was over 100,000 to build a BI solution. I said, yeah, like that's probably pretty decent actually. And they're saying, but you're telling me I can install this for a few $100s a month? And that's the value there is and you're doing it in 10 minutes, right?
Yep. We will plug your offer again here. So if you want a bonus 30-day trial on top of the 60 or the 30 days to give you 60 days, just put in promo code Kratos BI and you will get that. They'll just you'll extend that trial so you can do that 2-month evaluation. And I'll point out, I'm not making any money off of this. This is all like from Brian to you. Just I'm excited about this, so we're sharing this as an awesome solution.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Chris. Yeah, this is we know each other through kind of the mutual Microsoft world, and that's kind of in we're just here to talk for sure.
Although, wait a minute, maybe I should be charging for these. I'm not,
I see there's a thing. My last name is DeLuca, by the way. I see. Does Brian D have a last name? Brian DeLuca is my. If you want to hit me up on LinkedIn, there you can find me.
Yeah.
And I think we'll put you can some contact information at the end as well.
Yeah, we'll throw that up, and we'll give you all sorts of like hits there too. Brian, how does the architecture of this work? If we were to do you have like any like slides or diagrams for us to take a look at here?
Yeah, I've got my screen pulled up. If you want to flip over to my screen, I can. This is high level, obviously. Like, we're not trying to create engineering documents right now. This is for understanding purposes. But I think most of us have probably seen this, with kind of the Fabric, with all the new, the new features of Fabric, and obviously Fabric being a big deal right now. And we were chatting with Microsoft the other week, and the amount of stuff coming out right now, it's just hot and heavy delivery from Microsoft right now in the Fabric world. It's like every other day there's a new thing coming out on Fabric. But anyhow, this is kind of the concept of that modern data architecture, from a Fabric standpoint, kind of leveraging the idea of one lake, and this is really Microsoft's image. And what we're doing is we want to say, okay, so this is what you can take advantage of in the Fabric world, in the Microsoft world, to streamline your data processes, your workflows, your workloads. Within Fabric now makes this a lot easier. But what we want to do is show, well, how does the reporting hub fit into all of this? So this obviously is your data world, to oversimplify. And you can see at the top, we're saying, well, this is how we would deliver analytics as a service. And this is the overall solution framework, or the solution accelerator framework. So if you see us in any of the Microsoft documentation, you'll see it referred to as solution accelerator. That's kind of Microsoft's term they like to use for the idea of taking Power BI embedded and accelerating the delivery of it using the reporting hub. So when we look at, okay, well, how does the reporting hub fit into this world? Think of the reporting hub like an extension. A reporting hub is a web app extension that allows you to take your data and then deliver it. It's a delivery platform for all the work you're doing here that allows you to very simply deliver that as a web end user front end application. So it's a plug and play UI that you can now deliver your analytics content securely, leveraging all the best practices and APIs from Microsoft. So the key thing here is, this is kind of the Microsoft world, the data, the Fabric world, and think of us, the reporting hub, as that kind of extension leveraging Power BI APIs. It's a web app. All of this, of course, lives within your Azure environment. So we're not talking about a third-party SaaS product here. We're talking about a deployed app that actually physically resides behind within your Azure environment. So it's a no-code plug-and-play app. You can customize the domain and the URL. So it's yourapp.com. It's not like it's reportingup.com/your-company. It's yourapp.com. It's 100% brandable and white label. It is a multi-tenant, out of the box, a multi-tenant app. And when we say multi-tenant, we're referring to reporting hub tenants, not Microsoft tenants. So draw that distinction. It's still all deployed within a single Microsoft tenant, but you can have multiple reporting hub environments that allow you to create segregated environments that you can create data segregation. Your entire a segregated workflow from a Fabric domain all the way through to the actual delivery and consumption of that kind of end product, analytics product.
Hey, Brian, a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just trying to run through solutions here. Let's say I, as a consultant, right, I want to install and run this, could I surface this for like all of my customers to be able to like publish and provide this as a service for them?
So yes and no. So again,
Okay.
the Microsoft tenant is always going to be the limiting factor there.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you can, onboard customers' data, onboard customers' reporting, and then share it back to them through the reporting hub. Absolutely. But that kind of think of the limiting factor is always going to be that Microsoft tenant.
Okay.
Everything still has to reside within that tenant and within that Azure environment, within
Okay.
that kind of Azure resource group. So you can't be jumping Azure resource groups as an example. So you can't have the reporting hub deployed in your Azure resource group and then have it referencing an Entra ID from another Microsoft tenant. You can't do that. Everything has to be in that kind of single tenant. But once you're in that tenant, then you can create segregated unique environments to then distribute content securely in a segregated way.
Okay, I think that makes sense.
So think of it really, it's really just an extension to deliver your Power BI content and leveraging the back end of that Microsoft provides. I see a question there. How extensible are your solutions? Who owns the source? So I think likely what you mean there is kind of who owns the code. So the code of the reporting hub is owned by Shift Analytics, is the parent company, but that's owned. So you're basically getting a subscription to use the reporting hub. So you don't actually get the code. You don't get to change the code or do anything. You get to deploy it and then use it per your subscription or license with us, and that's kind of how it works. But the actual content within it, that's all yours. So we have no access whatsoever to your Azure environment. We have no access to your data. The reporting hub app itself has no access to your data. So there's no incremental exposure of your data or incremental exposure of your environment when you use the reporting hub. It's fully deployed, and your data is your data. It doesn't need to change. It still lives within the same place. It's still deployed in Power BI. We're simply surfacing it through an iframe in Power BI, and we're surfacing the report within an iframe, not like the underlying data. The underlying data stays where it is in your existing architecture.
I think that makes good sense. Power BI Tips has actually, Greg had a follow-up question. Is all Node and React, or what are you doing on the back end?
Yeah, I'm not the technical guy, Greg. We can maybe take that offline and get into the weeds on the actual coding of it all, but with our technical team into the back end and the code and all that. But happy to have that conversation kind of offline. But because it's obviously using multiple things. And again, I'll give a really kind of probably incorrect answer if I try to answer that question. I know enough, but I don't want to say the wrong thing right now.
Probably Cobalt.
So I got another very kind of high level architecture that again piggybacks off of the Microsoft kind of framework for
hang on, one more quick question before we head over to that. Power BI Tips is asking, can you embed other solutions like Qlik and Tableau into this?
So yes and no. So it's not designed to work with Tableau or Qlik the same way. It is designed to work with Power BI. It's built as a Power BI extension platform to deliver Power BI. I will show when I do a bit of a demo later. I'll do a brief demo, but we can embed any URL page in the reporting hub. So we can extend the embedding capabilities beyond Power BI, and we can embed any URL. So any web URL can be embedded as a content page in the reporting hub. Now, the caveat of that, of course, is the content in which you're embedding must support being embedded within an iframe. So if that domain allows that, then yes, you can embed it in the reporting hub. And the reporting hub acts as an open ID code flow server. So you can actually pass the authentication from your identity provider to the reporting hub. The reporting hub will then pass that through to your embedded content. So if you're using like a Tableau report or a custom front-end app that you're actually embedding through the reporting hub, we can pass the authentication through to that embedded content as well, because the reporting hub's an OpenID code flow server. So that's another way that the reporting hub can be extended beyond just kind of straight Power BI reports or Power BI dashboards kind of thing.
So you could still take advantage of row-level security, object-level security in the other solutions.
Absolutely,
not just in Power BI. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool.
But we don't promote that it's, it works with Click, it works with Tableau. Like that's not, it's a Power BI solution. But given the fact that we have the extension of embedding URL pages, you could theoretically accomplish that, but it's going to be a little bit more, work required.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Let's head on back into your the demo here.
Yeah, all good. So I mean,
design.
this is a high level architecture, and we're just piggybacking off of the kind of Microsoft idea of modern data architecture, data lake house, excuse me, with one lake. So again, you may have seen a similar architecture diagram from Microsoft. We kind of just piggybacking off of that. And again, what we're saying is we're just saying, hey, this, whatever this process looks like, it's pretty agnostic. It doesn't have to be Fabric. We obviously recommend that as a best practice. We're a Microsoft partner, but it doesn't have to be. This data can obviously be in somewhere else. You could be in Snowflake. You could be using other tools as your backend data infrastructure. But this example is meant to just be high level. Conceptually, this is what kind of an end-to-end analytics as a service architecture might look like. So again, this is kind of where Microsoft ends. It ends here at use Power BI. And if you look at the Microsoft docs, it's really just like, okay, now build your own front end app if you want to use Power BI embedded. So what the reporting hub does is the reporting hub kind of acts as that extension again. And what we're saying is to complete the cycle or to complete the end-to-end architecture, we basically add this delivery layer. And again, it's a turnkey plug and play delivery layer, excuse me, so that we can go from data source to consumption all the way through everything within your Azure environment, everything as kind of, using modern data architecture, everything using kind of plug and play, no code, to create that overall solution. So that's kind of that high level, just to, again, go a little bit further on it, but not going too deep into it.
Well, it's funny. I literally had to diagram the solution yesterday, and I think I drew nearly the identical diagram there. So yes, got that one right.
Nailed it. Yeah, nailed it. Yeah, we've got an extensive document library as well. So if you go to docs.thereportinghub.com, you can find a ton of kind of stuff that goes along with what I'm saying. So you don't need to necessarily remember everything I'm saying. You can just go to our site or documentation site and find a lot of information as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, I know there are lots of consultants out that might be watching this. What do you say to them when someone says, "Well, hey, you're going to eat my lunch. You're going to drink my milkshake if I introduce this as part of the solution." How does this fit with clients there?
Yeah, I mean it's a good question for sure. So our goal and the way we position the reporting hub is a product. It is not a service. So it's sold as obviously kind of like software as a service, but from a licensing standpoint, but it's still a product. You install it, you deploy it, it's software. What we are not is a solution provider. We actually have just gone live kind of in the new year in January with a solution partner program where we're creating a networking basically platform for referrals so that we can work with dedicated solution partners that we know who they are, we know the level of quality that they're delivering, so that when our customers say, hey, we need help, we don't want to manage this, we want somebody to manage it for us, we want somebody to do our Azure managed services, we don't want to deal with that, we want somebody to help us build our Power BI reports and configure our data models and do all that. Well, that's great. That's not us. That's what our solution partner network is for. And we're actually just going live. We're going to have a solution partner directory that's going to be up this week. And basically that's going to be that point of reference to say, hey, these are our solution partners. And that's where the consultants, the professional services organizations that want to partner with us, that understand the value that the reporting hub brings, you can partner with us and deliver our solution and be rewarded by that. But also, it's kind of a referral network where, our customers can go find solution partners in your part of the world. So to put it in context, the reporting hub deployed in over 20 countries all over the world. We've been in market over 3 years globally. The reporting hub is in over 20 countries. We have customers all over the place. So our goal is to create a network of solution providers that we can say, if you're German speaking and you want, and you're in Germany and you want a solution partner that speaks German that's located in your part of the world, great. go to our directory, find a solution partner that we've partnered with, and they can help you deliver your overall end-to-end BI solution, of which the reporting up is a part of. But again, we're that product, we're not the service. We want to partner with the service providers.
I gotcha. Well, and it's clear that you just introduced this and came up with this yesterday. So I mean, it's not like you have many web pages out there that outline all these different features and connections and program parts. So to me, this says like speaks to a true commitment to this framework. So that's fantastic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all part of the the direction we're taking the software. It's our goal, like I said at the outset, our goal is to remove all the roadblocks, create a way that everybody can get this in their hands cost efficiently, and technical efficiency, all of that, and that's our goal to do that. And we think there's a huge potential for those consulting organizations, for the professional services firms out there to say, hey, we should be recommending this solution. We should be working with these guys, and then we can actually grow our consulting business by taking advantage of a pre-built solution now. Because the reality is, like, if you don't have to build, I mean, there's still a use case for building it. You don't have to use the reporting hub. There's still a viable use case for building your own.
Sure.
I'm not going to suggest like it's the be all and end all solution. It's a turnkey solution for organizations who want that simplicity, that time to market efficiency. For those that want to own the code and do other than, yeah, there's still a market for that consulting, build it your own, build it yourself. That's not our target.
Sure. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And honestly, I think at the Microsoft conference, if you're going to be there, we'll be speaking on that. I'll be speaking in a larger program meeting. It's not going to just be about the reporting hub. It's going to be embedded analytics and the various other partners that are in this space as well. So you're not the only game in town.
Yeah, no, there's three solution partners in the initial wave of the Microsoft Solution Accelerator program.
Yep.
And all the kind of the neat thing about it is that all three partners have a different offering in terms of how they kind of approach the world of embedded analytics, and the targets are all a little bit different. So I think that's the best thing is we're all on the same page in growing the market for embedded analytics, because we all recognize the value of doing embedded analytics from a delivery standpoint. So we, the market for this is still very much in its infancy in terms of being able to fully explore the total opportunity. So
Sure.
That's the idea.
So we've been talking at a high level. Are you able to show us like this in action beyond just some slides and like what does it take to configure all of that good stuff? Do we have that?
Yeah, I can whip through a quick demo here for sure. I got it pulled up. I'm not going to go into crazy detail here. Obviously, if anybody wants to chat further, anyone wants to go into more detail, by all means, you can get in contact with us. Happy to jump on and go into more detail. So today is really just going to be high level, introducing it, and kind of going into that idea today. So this is kind of
looking at Tableau here, or Click, or what are we looking at here?
We are looking at embedded Power BI. So this right here is your Power BI content itself. That is your Power BI report that lives in your Power BI service. Nothing changes from your existing Power BI infrastructure. You still build your reports based on however you want to build those reports. You still publish those reports to the Power BI service. You still do your scheduled refresh. You still set up your direct query if you want to do that, and your gateways and all that. Nothing changes.
Wait,
there.
This is Power BI? What I'm looking at here is Power BI. All of it?
This is
Power BI and Reporting Hub, right?
Yes. So the exterior frame, think of it, that's the app frame that lives around this container, which is your Reporting Hub content. So this is your actual, your live interactive Power BI. Oh, of course, I let it sit too long. And it timed out.
The curse of the demos, right?
Well, we were talking so long without a demo that it needs to reload here.
But I mean, if this is Power BI and native functionality right here, or just filter, drag, drop, all that stuff, just
take my money,
right? Like that's it, right? Like be done, have some money, right?
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
that's the goal is to say, okay, you've already done all this work, and I made that point earlier about like everything done was Power BI is the world's greatest BI tool, like full stop. That's coming from a 20-year BI veteran.
Right.
And but delivery, and it's not just Power BI, it's all kind of analytics tools, all BI tools. Delivery is the weak link.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you wrap your content in, and delivering in a way that's done, very slick, very professional, very simple. And you'll notice the UI is quite clean and simple. And the nice thing is this is fully configurable. So I can, as an administrator, I can come, I'm going to swap out, my logo here. I can size my logo, make sure it's how I want. I can actually drop a secondary logo because maybe I've got my customer that I want to add. So maybe I have a tenant for each of my customers, and each customer is a different product line or something. So I can add a secondary logo. In this case, we're using BMW as an example. So one of our customers services kind of the automotive world, and they like Jaguar, BMW, their customers. So just to kind of give that in context, I can very quickly come in, change all the colors. Now you can see I've got this co-branded kind of, here's my business, here's, BMW's tenant, BMW logs in, gets their, consumer insights. Of course, this is a demo site, but this would be your URL. You can different app layouts to choose from, and it's just personal preference. What do you like best from an app layout? Colors, everything can be configured from a color perspective to make it exactly like your fonts. Everything can be configured to kind of align with your brand identity with your organization. And then so I do that setup, and now I've got you saw that took all of 30 seconds, and now my users can manage through their content, and you only see everything is completely secure. You only see what you have permission to see. So you could have a very extensive navigation menu, and as an administrator, you define it's kind of like an app in Power BI today. It's not unlike an app, but the difference is an app is tied to a workspace. So there's a one-to-one relationship between app and workspace. So you need to have all these apps, right? The idea with the reporting hub is you have a single reference point. It's not 10 different apps, it's one app, or you could have multiple tenants. But everybody, you could have, finance logs in, finance sees the finance reports, HR logs in, HR sees the HR reports. We're assigning permission at the content page level as well as the tenant level. So we actually have 3 levels at which we can control permissions now from a delivery standpoint. So we have way more granularity of control over permissioning and content management, so that we can have a single, delivery platform where everybody goes, but everybody gets the content they only have the access to. So that's another one of the big benefits from a kind of permission management standpoint. And then these tabs across the top, these are going to be your tabs that are in your Power BI report. So again, we're trying to say not everyone wants the things to look like Power BI. Probably one of the biggest complaints is it looks too much like Power BI. So the idea here is, we've got a navigation menu across the top, which is basically your tabs, but we give you more control and say, okay, well, I only want to embed, maybe my report has 10 tabs, but I actually only want to embed 3 of them. Well, I can actually embed at the tab level and say, so when it comes to actually embedding my content, I just simply go manage my content. If I want to create a new report, I just say, add new content page. And this is synced with the workspace in Power BI that you've given it permission to access. So the reporting hub only has permission to the workspaces that you that you give it permission to.
Okay.
So you could say, whatever you want, new Power BI report. We have 26,000 different icons to choose from, so you can get an icon that is aligned with your content type. And I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but this is going to be synced. So I just simply grab the workspace where my content resides, go fetch the report I want to embed. By default, it's going to embed all pages, but you can say, actually, you know what? I only want to embed these 2 tabs. And then I've got some page properties. I assign my permissions, which is going to be tied to whatever identity provider, identity management you're using. So if you're using Auth0, it's going to be your Auth0 roles. If you're using Okta, it's going to be your Okta. If you're using Entra ID or Entra ID, excuse me, it's going to be your security groups. So you just simply, grant permissions, and then save. You've now embedded your content. So no code. You don't need to worry about embed codes. You don't need to be jumping back and forth between Power BI, Service. Everything is synced. Everything's integrated as one platform and managed that way.
Oh, this is fantastic. Hey, W. Laurie is asking, What licensing does a prospective client need? As in, do they need the SKU specifically for Power BI embedded? Is it a P SKU? What about F SKUs? Those types of questions.
It's a great question, and one we get asked extensively. We have a dedicated doc specifically for that. So, okay, there's actually we actually have a YouTube video published about that topic as well. So if you go into our YouTube channel, you'll find there's a video of me talking, and it's about licensing. So what licenses do I need from a Microsoft standpoint, but also a reporting hub standpoint, because those are two different things. And the point we always make about licensing is we have we've no bearing on your Microsoft licensing. We're not involved. We're not a CSP. We're not getting a take on your Microsoft licensing. That's between you and Microsoft. And then your reporting hub licenses with the reporting hub. The reporting hub can be installed through Azure. It is an Azure transactable offer. It also is a IP co-sell eligible solution. So if you have max spend, if you have Azure committed spend, you can use that to purchase the reporting hub within the marketplace as well. So that's an option as well. But I'm not going to go into specific detail, but this is where you go to find that, docs.thereportinghub.com. There's a page called Required Azure Services, and we tell you everything you need to know from a licensing standpoint. But at the end of the day, you need a capacity, you need an Azure App Service, and you need a very small SQL database to run the reporting hub within your environment.
Well, hey, a follow-on question that was asked earlier in the stream, but I think now is a good time to get it out there. Oh, did I lose it? No, I did not. John Law came over from LinkedIn. He's asking, hey, Brian, we're looking at use of your product. Very excited about it. However, we're finding that our reports run very slowly when embedded versus by your product, but in the service, the same reports run quickly.
Yeah.
Does embedded run more slowly? What's going on?
Yeah, good question, John. And I'm familiar with the issue John's having. I believe they're trialing. They're doing a POC right now with us, and I think we're even tied into the Microsoft ticket going on right now in that topic. But it's actually a really good. It's a good topic. So let's jump into it. So when you are using the reporting hub and Power BI embedded, the important thing to be aware of is there's. So if I'll go to a report right now. So I'll go to this is the embedded report. You see that customized loader as well. You can customize the loader so it's not the Power BI or Fabric loader when your content loads. You can put a GIF file in there. But so this is and everything within inside this iframe. So everything that's inside this box, this frame within the actual application, the reporting hub does not control. It is controlled by the Microsoft APIs. We are simply surfacing it via the iframe. So anything that happens in this box is ultimately the responsibility of Microsoft and the client customer, because we don't touch that. We have nothing to do with the actual data. We have nothing to do with the data processing, with the data, the refresh of your data. You can run the highest, the most expensive embedded capacity or the least expensive embedded capacity. That's going to dictate your performance as well. So the performance of the embedded content is going to be dictated by Power BI embedded, not the reporting hub. So that's important to know. So make sure that you appropriately size your embedded capacity to your needs. Now, I know in the case of John, they do have a fairly high Fabric capacity. So they're not skimping out on capacity at that point. So that's not the issue here, but the issue that you'll sometimes find is when you deploy in the Power BI service, it will be different. It will function differently. When you're using the Microsoft API for Power BI embedded, there is definitely, it's not the same technology. So when you're viewing that report in the Power BI service, you're viewing that in the Power BI service. When you're using Power BI embedded, you're viewing it via the Microsoft API through an iframe. So sometimes, yes, there are performance differences, but typically in the case, and John, don't take this personally, typically in the case of like really, really big reports that have a lot of data behind them that take a long time to render to begin with, those really kind of resource heavy reports, those really like heavy reports, those are the ones where sometimes you'll notice a difference of performance between embedded and the service. And I know specifically the issues that the John and team are having, they're working with Microsoft to help resolve, because ultimately it's a capacity issue. To your point and to John's point, there shouldn't be a difference, but sometimes there is. between embedded and the service. So when things like that happen, unfortunately, that's you have to work with Microsoft to get those things resolved, because ultimately the reporting has no bearing on those workloads.
Yeah, and if anyone's trying to troubleshoot that, the first place you go to start troubleshooting that is you download Fiddler. It's a great tool to help you like extract everything that goes on between your client and the service, all the web traffic, all the waits and whatnot. Fiddler will help you gather all that information. And what you do is you run a Fiddler trace connecting to the report through the Power BI service through an embedded version of the Power BI service, right? Like go into like the whole like embed playground, connect to that report, while you have Fiddler Trace on, run that, and then run it through the embedded side as well, and then do comparisons there. You're going to find an issue like that's going to be like an auth issue or something's hanging inside there, or most likely it's going to push back to the service. And then you go into log analytics and all that stuff for troubleshooting.
Yep.
Good question.
Yeah, great question. And
Yeah.
it's I don't want to call it a common issue with embedded, but it's certainly, performance is a thing to be aware of, absolutely, when you're doing your solution, to make sure that everything is scaled kind of appropriately.
Yeah, no, that is that's spot on. We want people to see how these things work and operate together, and understanding that and getting that, how you test and troubleshoot that, I think is equally important, because regardless of who's doing the embedding, understanding how you troubleshoot and do performance testing, that's a big value add.
Yeah, and to put perspective from a scale standpoint, like we have
Mhm.
customers that are running, literally hundreds of tenants of the reporting hub, and thousands, up to 10,000 users.
Yeah.
So there's from a scalability perspective, theoretically, it's you can scale this thing all you want. The underlying resources are what going to define the performance of the scale that you're running.
Yep. All right, Brian, we are nearly at the end of our time together. What parting words, if any, do you have for the people who are watching? And is it just to download and try it and use promo code KratosBI to get an extra 30 bonus days to try Reporting Hub?
Yeah, I mean, it's really that simple, and that our whole mission in life is to make it simple. That's what the purpose of the reporting hub. So I'm not trying to oversimplify. That's the idea. It's try it, kick the tires, install it. It's no obligation. See how it can work for you. See how you can take advantage of the benefits of that Power BI embedded offers in a turnkey plug and play solution with no commitment. And you can make up your own determination on it. And that's ultimately, we're here to support. And I tell everybody I demo to, we're only successful if you're successful. So our customers, if they're not successful with their delivering their analytics, they're not going to use the reporting hub. And so we ensure our customers are going to be successful. We have got a dedicated support team. We jump on. We have real people that will jump on Teams calls and help you. We do all that kind of stuff to make sure that our customers are successful deploying these types of solutions.
Well, that is absolutely fantastic, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank everyone on the call for being here and being part of the live stream. Again, remember on Friday, Mark Walters is going to be joining us. We're going to be doing TreeTaz, doing some deep dives. But next we can meet up with Brian and myself at the Fabric Conference, right? And where else can people find you, Brian?
Definitely find us online. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I think you put my link there.
Yep.
Go to our website. You can schedule a demo. You'll get me almost all the time on those demos. Go to our website. Get in touch. Happy to chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Brian, for coming to join us. Thank you all for being part of the live stream. Love this community. Love getting to have a chance to talk to everyone. You guys have a great day now. Peace. Baker Tilly Digital combines strategic industry insight and advanced technical expertise to uncover and solve your digital transformation challenges. If you're interested in learning more, check out our website at bakertilly.com/digital.